Okay, today we have someone who I'm kind of excited to talk about. Flavio, hello, how are you?
I'm excellent.
Good.
Thanks for having me on.
Sure. So, when you emailed me, I didn't really understand what you were talking about at first. You said that you were a military flipper, which I thought you meant like you were one of those guys that buys like the big lots of military, it's surplus and sells that stuff. But it turns out you're actually in the it's military and you flip.
So yeah, I've been in the military about 4 years now. Joined in 2013, and I kind of just picked this up recently, a couple months ago. If you guys can kind of compare myself to Adam, who you guys interviewed early on,
Yep.
the first episode, that's kind of where I'm at right now. A couple hundred items, and just trying to grow and improve.
And I liked in one of your emails you were telling me that in the military there's a strong tradition of passing on its knowledge, and that's kind of what we wanted to do today was, and that's why I'm excited because I just want to hear how someone who lives on an army base or on a military base can still have an eBay store. I think that'll be really interesting.
Anyone who's in the military can tell you, like NCOs, that's our job. We pass on knowledge. We talk to our younger guys. We tell them, hey, don't buy the brand new Mustang at 19% interest. It's funny because you laugh, but literally the other day, someone came to me and was like, hey, I'm getting gouged on this loan. Like, what can I do? And I just kind of like shook my head. I was like, what are you doing? Yeah. But it's a lot of work. It's hard. I'm not gonna lie, it's not easy. I mean, sometimes I have to wake up a little bit earlier and go to sleep a little bit later. But I mean, I enjoy it. It's fun. It's a cool little side hobby for me, and it helps keep me out of trouble.
Yep. So I want to, talk about a couple things so we don't have to be real specific. So you actually live on a military base, and are you in, just so we can sketch out in people's minds, some people here know what being on a military base is, some people don't. So talk about, like, how much space do you have? Like, are you have bunkmates, that kind of thing?
I live in what are called barracks, and each room, barracks vary in size and condition. You can have a really nice barrack, or you can have like a really cheap, old, broken, falling apart, moldy, type of thing. But mine are pretty decent, and basically what it is just a studio. Usually the younger guys will have roommates, but once you reach a certain point, they kind of stop giving you a roommate. So that's where I'm at right now. If you can think like a small studio with a bathroom and no kitchen, and yeah.
So it's like a dorm room, I guess, in my mind, I'm thinking.
Yeah, I've never been to college, so I don't know what that's like, but...
And because I've never been in the military, when are people allowed to live off base? I know some people can do that.
It varies from service to service, and it varies from unit to unit, but from my personal experience, like, if you're married, okay, that's the one catch-all. If you're married, yes, you live off base, like, or you can live outside of the barracks, I should say, because there is base housing and you can get a house off base. But for us single guys, it pretty much depends on rank, seniority, how responsible you are, stuff like that. If you have some exigent circumstance, like, hey, my mother's really elderly, she's 80 years old, she's not doing so well, and I want to, live off base with her. Like, it's on a case-by-case basis that has a lot of factors involved, like I said, with rank and seniority.
As a scavenger, I really see the attractiveness as to this way of life because, I mean, basically, the government's paying for your stay, for your food, your clothes. Like, it's all kind of taken care of, right? I mean, that's awesome.
Absolutely. I'm biased, and I don't want to sound like a recruiting commercial, but the military is the best way to start your life because it gives you structure, it gives you discipline. They don't give you freedom all at once either. When you go into your basic training or your boot camp, you have no freedom. You're told literally when to chew, when to walk, when to run, and then as you go progressing a little bit, when you get maybe to your technical school, they allow you a little bit of freedom. Like, oh, okay, you get evenings off, and then when you get to your first unit, they're like, okay, you get your entire day to yourself or whatever, your entire off time to yourself. But you have to let people know where you're going, and then maybe you become more senior and they're like, hey, you can do whatever you want, because you're not a young kid that, doesn't know what they're doing.
So do you think that you're more like the oddball in your kind of group of people there? Because, I'm assuming it's saving cash and you're also having this a side gig of selling on eBay. Whereas you just mentioned other guys are like buying like brand new sports cars at just unreasonable interest rates. I mean, that to me, I think of a lot of as military people is that they work hard, they risk their life, and then they just spend all their cash in crazy ways.
I don't really know what I am, to be honest. I mean, I have a couple close friends that are a mixture of the two types, but one of my friends that I'm very close to, he's kind of like my brother and whatnot. I've been trying to bring him into the fold of like, hey man, you got to save your money. Like, this is what a IRA is, and this is how you use your TSP, and this is a budget. I'm trying to bring him into the fold to set them up for life. But that's something that I try to do with all my guys. I'm trying to kind of just look out for them. And, whenever someone approaches me and they talk casually about, oh, yeah, I'm going to buy, a new iPhone 7, I'm like, oh, you could probably buy an iPhone off of Craigslist for like half of what a new one will cost you. And you'll probably, you'll save on the payments and, and there's no commitment. So, and, it's just that sort of I'm trying to get rid of that sort of mentality of, hey, let's just spend all our money. So right. there are a few, but I'm trying to change that.
I have a friend that's he was in the military. He's out now, but he talked about when he was over in Iraq, they would have, I guess he would have actual car salesmen. I didn't quite understand it, but they would have like computer terminals where they would sit, guys down in front of them, and they would have them buy cars. Like they could shop for brand new cars, so when they got back home, they could then pick it up. And I guess somehow the payment was made online. I mean, to me, that seems like the craziest way to buy a car.
I'm kind of disappointed in retailers and, just the consumerism that kind of targets the military, in all honesty. I mean, free financing, this, that, $10 off, they kind of push it down our throats, the military discount and stuff, and to kind of entice the younger guys that don't really know what they're doing with their money and that don't really have that much experience. And, it's a shame, but at the same time,
well, it's America,
yeah, at the same time, yeah, it is America. Other people need to make a living. And, that's the best way to learn is, from your mistakes. So
I'm not preaching from a point of like superiority. Trust me, in my earlier days, I was not a very frugal person. So, let's just, so I understand you a little bit better. So did you join the military right out of high school, or why, or how did it work out?
I actually have like a kind of a Cinderella story, like for the military. Cause like I used to, oh gosh, this is kind of embarrassing. I'm probably going to regret saying this, but I used to, wear these army pants, and I would wear them every single day. Like these camouflage pants, my mom bought them brand new, and I used to wear them ragged. They turned into shorts by the time I was done with them, And like every day I would tell my mom, I'm joining the military. She was like, okay, whatever. It kind of blew me off, She's like, whatever, it doesn't matter. You're like 7 years old. There's no way you know what you want to do. As I got closer to getting out of high school, I thought about the college route, and I took it. I tried to apply to colleges just in case, like, that's what I wanted to do. So this recruiter, he comes into the classroom and he's like, hey, and tells me about the service and everything that I can do. And I was like, wow, this is kind of the final little push that I needed. And I went, I think like the next day or the day after, and I was 18 at this point, and I signed the papers, and I came back and I told my mom, and surprisingly, she was like, okay, if that's what you want to do, yeah, absolutely, good job. Like I was like, oh, wow, okay, wow. Cool, yeah.
So you joined it's without telling her?
Yeah, wow. Kind of. I told her that I was talking to the recruiter. Yeah, I thought she was going to be livid, but she was actually really supportive, which was great, And I think she knew that I'm not a dummy, and I kind of, have a plan.
I mean, I think back to when I was 17, 18. I mean, I think I was adventurous in many ways, but I think if I were to ever think of joining the military, I think I'd be kind of nervous and afraid. Ultimately you're there to risk your life for the country, but also just going through all the training. Were you nervous at all about all that? Guys shouting at you and all the physical endurance stuff?
I mean, of course I was, nervous. I mean, with any unknown, you're going to be nervous. I'm sure you were nervous when you went off to college, sure. Or, first date with Ryan or whatever. So, it's just, I don't know. I just kind of said, well, they can't kill me here. They can't kill me in training. So I'm just going to do it. And you just take each challenge one day at a time. When you you keep on trucking. You face the thing that's right in front of you, and you handle the next thing when it comes up to you. So
So if we can say, and you've been in for what, 4 or 5
4
years
years.
now? 4 years. Okay. So what was the point where you were like, well, this isn't enough. I want to actually have a side business, and I'm gonna sell online.
So I'm kind of the guy that's if I'm not challenged, then I'm bored, and if I'm bored, I usually get into trouble. I had a couple incidents early on that kind of got me chewed out pretty good, and I had a couple guys in my chain of command that looked out for me, and they kind of pushed me in the right direction. So I was able to put my energy into other things. I tried school, I tried Uber, I tried having a store on Shopify. That actually kind of like was working for me, but then I had to shut it down because some other circumstances. And so for a while I was kind of like, gosh, what can I do? Like, should I try school again? So I like kind of applied, and I was like, school's not really for me, just because I don't really feel motivated to learn. Like, if someone's telling me to learn, I don't feel motivated to learn. Like, I don't like. I want to learn because I'm interested in what I'm studying. So then I started like browsing Reddit. I don't know if you're familiar with the site.
Oh,
but
yeah. Sure.
yeah, I love that site. So I was browsing it, and I think in one of the threads, someone just happened to mention like flipping stuff on eBay, and I was like, that's kind of an interesting idea. So I, Googled a little more, did a little more research, and it appealed to me because it was so dependent on how much effort you wanted to put in. You could put in, 8 hours a day, and you're going to be making money, as long as you make the right purchases, obviously, and the right decisions. Yeah, it's been going great ever since.
You bring up a couple things here that I like to unpack. So number one is Uber. I see Uber as being actually another kind of opportunity for people who are just trying to make their own schedule. Why did you stop doing that? Did it not work out?
The amount of money that they pay you for what you do, your time, and the expenses after the fact, like, it's cool if you're looking for spending money, some extra cash for maybe like a night out or whatever. It's great for that. Perfect. Like, right. Awesome. You want to work a couple nights or a couple hours a week? Perfect for some extra money, so you're not dipping into your actual money for bills. Like, great. I needed a more flexible schedule was one of the reasons, and then also I just didn't feel like I was getting my money's worth for my time and the effort I was putting into, because they ask you to do a lot of extra things, like, oh, hey, put, water in your car for your customers. Oh, put music on, like, keep the temperature at 69 degrees. And I was like, you know what, man, they're in my car. Like, I don't need to do all that, like, for basically what is minimum wage. Like, so.
How much do you think, I mean, I know it's different for wherever people are in the country, but how much do you think you were making an hour? Like $10 an hour, or?
I would say it would vary from, on a slow night, making nothing. I was losing money.
Wow.
On a really busy night, I would probably say, after everything, expenses, depreciation on the vehicle, gas, I would probably say maybe $9 to $11.
Yeah, that's not much. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, those kind of gig jobs, I guess it's like you said, it gives you the flexibility to work when you want, but ultimately you're still working for someone else. And that's why I think I like selling online, like eBay or I guess Amazon or these other sites. Is just that you can not only pick your hours, but yeah, it's like you said, you can make as much money as you want depending on how much time you put into it.
Yeah, definitely. Have you always been like that? Have you always wanted to work for yourself, or was there a switch that flipped?
Yeah, no, for me, I was brought up by parents where, they taught me, get educated, go to school, and then the idea was you work for somebody else and you work hard and they pay you and all that stuff. It's my partner who, I mean, she's the one who, she had parents who worked for themselves their whole lives, and she's the one that just knew that you could do that. I just didn't even know how it was possible. So she's the one that made this happen. I'm her employee, really, at the end of the day.
I mean, sometimes it sounds like that.
Yeah,
No, but that's really good that you guys have like that cooperative, teamwork kind of mentality to it. Whenever I listen to it, you could really hear the chemistry, like, that you guys work together. Like, oh, hey, what was that item that we sold? And like, oh, so and so. That's pretty awesome.
It's got to be, an adventure, whether it's you work with a partner or by it's yourself. Like, if it's not fun and kind of a scavenger hunt, then it's just a grind. It's like anything else,
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the way I think of it, the scavenger hunt.
Okay, so let's talk about your time. So is being full time on a base? Are you doing 8 hours a day? Like, what is your time in the military versus time on your own?
For right now, we're kind of not busy, because nothing's going on. But just in my particular job, I'm working 14 to 16 hours a day. Like that's the time I'm awake. From the point I wake up to the time I go to bed, it's like 14 to 16 hours. A couple hours are dedicated to gearing up and working out and stuff like that, because that is part of the job. Like I have to do that per my job. So, but actual like on duty is 12 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is it one of those things where it's like 4 days on and 2 days off, or is it just?
Yeah, basically, pretty much.
So had you done eBay in a previous life? Like, had you bought on eBay? I mean, did you have any experience with eBay at all?
Yeah. So I think I can actually remember the instance that I created my eBay account. It was 2014. I was in technical school. I needed a computer because I did not bring mine with me. I did not want to buy a brand new computer because I know how quickly they got outmoded or whatever. So I was on eBay looking for anything, and I found like a cheap MacBook. And back then, obviously, I was still concerned with buying the brand new thing. And I was like, oh, this is a good compromise, a MacBook Air, and it's not that expensive. So I placed a bid and I won. And, from there, I didn't really use it for like a year. And then I used it to sell some electronics that I had lying around, and then I didn't use it again for a couple months.
And then you also told me previously that you've sold, or you do have an Amazon account too, and sell there as well.
Yeah, I'm not really a big fan of Amazon, to be honest.
Is that?
It's just I feel like I'm working for Walmart or something. It's like I don't want to have to answer to Amazon, even though I guess in some cases you do answer to eBay still and PayPal. But Amazon just has all these rules like, oh, things can't be torn. Like this is, it's too much. Amazon's cool if I find a pristine brand new thing, but eBay's, in my opinion, the way to go. And, I like it a lot more. It's a lot more rewarding to find that little trinket, and find out, oh, cool, this is a collector's item,
Yeah, I think that among those of us who sell online, I mean, we're obviously really pro eBay, and it's more about just the pro. I like that it's just a big yard sale online. I like that mentality. Although I know people hearing us, they would argue it's with that. They really love Amazon because it really is about, like, if you can find those niches, you find some source of some brand new item, then I love it. I just I need the kind of excitement of the hunt. Then where I just feel like I'm managing a mini Target or a Walmart,
And I mean, how does that fit into? I mean, I know you guys have kind of like hippie ideals. I don't know. You guys view yourself as hippies, right?
Punks, yeah.
Excuse me, yeah. So how does that fit into? Because I know you guys don't like to contribute to waste and stuff. Does that contribute at all to your feelings to FBA?
Yeah, I mean, well, when we're still a little bit on Amazon. We have some stuff in there. It's warehouse, but really we've kind of stopped sending anything in, and we're not really focused on that. I mean, we were following the model that people told us, that you can find stuff out in the world that's new in the box and mail that in. So we never did the buying wholesale or private label. We would just go to yard sales and someone would have a brand, it's new in box thing, and we would send that in there. So
yeah.
That still felt exciting to us because instead of selling that thing on eBay, we just sold it on Amazon. It just turned out that it just didn't work out so well because sometimes, and it was our fault, it wasn't always really new in the box. It was kind of new in the box. And then,
right, yeah.
So we kind of got dinged on that, and I understand. That was our problem, so.
But there's nothing wrong with that item, It was perfectly in functional condition, Right. And Amazon just doesn't like it because it's open, which it's understandable, right?
I mean, if I buy something on Amazon and someone says it's new in the box, and I get it, and I can tell it's been opened or the box is dinged up, I'd be a bit upset too because it's not what I said it was. So
right.
But on eBay, that's why I love it, because there's a different expectation on eBay. So you can say open box, and people understand. The box might have dings on it, but it's going to be cool, and that's okay. You have a certain amount of time that you're in the military doing your military stuff, and then when you get off of work, I mean, what do other people do when they're off? Are they just hanging out in their dorm rooms? Are they heading out to the bars?
God, I hate that stereotypes are
Yeah,
so true,
right.
but people,
Like Top Gun, you know?
yeah, people literally, they hang out in bars, they'll play video games,
Yep.
it's just like, and neither one of those are really productive, so
Right.
it doesn't draw me at
Right.
all.
So then, when they're doing that, are you in your dorm? I'm not dorm, but in your studio taking pictures. Is that how it works?
Yeah, when they're doing that, I'm sourcing, I'm listening, I'm doing whatever needs to be done. I'm watching your podcast, or listening
Yep.
to your podcast rather. Whatever needs to be done, I'm doing it. I have to maximize my time because there's so little of it.
Right. Okay. So where do you find stuff?
I do a lot of Goodwill just because that's kind of I'm part of this online forum on that same site, Reddit.
Yep.
It's R flipping, and
Yep.
a lot of them I saw were sourcing from Goodwill
Yep.
and thrift stores. So that's what I naturally just gravitated towards because that's what everybody else is doing. And now I've kind of expanded into online auctions, estate sales, yard sales. So I'm kind of actually looking forward to this weekend because it's pretty nice out, and there should be some good yard sales.
See, I think that's so. I mean, it's cool because it's true. Goodwill, because they're just everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone that's not from America, just, I mean, you have to understand, Goodwill is like this behemoth. They take over, like, in a shopping mall, they'll take over the old supermarkets. So these places are huge.
Yeah.
And they're everywhere. And yeah, so I think that's like the gateway drug to any scavenger because, they're easy to find. And prices for a reason, some Goodwills are more expensive than others, and so. But then it's fun too because once you kind of master Goodwill, then you start to learn about yard sales, estate sales, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it always gets me when you're at a Goodwill and there's an item and you can clearly see where the original retailer put the price and then Goodwill mocked it up. And I'm like, what? How does this? You're a thrift store. Like, how does this make sense?
Yeah. I don't even understand it. I mean, like where we live, there will be a Goodwill in a shopping, mall, and then right next door is like a brand new, it's clothing store. And very often the clothes are almost the exact same. I don't know how the clothing store stays in business with Goodwill basically has the same exact clothes.
That's interesting. But I have noticed that near Goodwills that are near like a lot of retailers, like shopping centers and stuff, they usually have like newer items from those stores, which is odd to me. Like, are they giving them as like their old stock? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good question. So then when you started to sell, if you're saying Goodwill, I'm assuming you were starting to sell clothes. Was the first thing you started?
Absolutely not. Clothes is the
Really?
plague to me. I hate it. I hate clothes. I hate fashion. I hate distressed jeans. I'm paying $100 for ripped jeans or whatever. And just like clothes just don't appeal to me at all whatsoever. I hate fashion. I'm a guy. I mean, not that says anything, but I'm just saying, like, I'm a guy. I'm not interested in fashion. So I do more like the trinkets and stuff and like interesting electronics. I really dig like the retro electronics and vintage electronics, like audio equipment, like weird answering machines, stuff like that. And yeah, clothes is just not at all my niche.
Now, we do sell clothes, but at the Goodwills, it's like you. I head normally straight to the back, and that's where they have the housewares, electronics, piles of old luggage and golf clubs. I love digging back there.
Oh man, that place is a treasure trove. And sometimes you'll open up. I don't know if this has ever happened to you. You'll open up the suitcase or something, and you'll find like old. Actually, this has happened to you. You purchased a suitcase, and you found cashier's checks, right?
Yep.
You open up stuff, and sometimes you'll find like weird little documentation or like maybe like a badge or something or a pin that someone left in there by accident. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
And do you shop at the Goodwill outlets, the ones where it's like, pay by the pound?
I went to one on the recommendation of a couple of guys from the board, but that's just not my speed. I'm not trying to elbow and nudge my way next to get to a box, with junk. That's not what they're really competitive in my opinion.
Yep.
And everybody has their place, and it's like, oh, you're in Mark's spot. And I'm like, who is Mark? This is a first come, first serve. Where's Mark? Like,
I'm so with you. We've been to maybe 4 or 5 times. It brings out the worst in me because
absolutely.
Because in that environment, I will go toe to toe with people. Like I do not mind elbowing people away. And then it always makes me feel bad because I'm like, I'm not doing this to like, kind of compete with people like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a new beast. That's a different kind of ball game there. Like, they work in gangs too. At the one I go to or have been to, they work in gangs. There's like 4 or 5 guys, and
Huh.
I had one encounter with a gentleman, and I went to get to a new box that was coming in. He kind of looked at me, and we were kind of close. There wasn't a lot of space because we were both trying to nudge into getting into that spot. And I was like, "Excuse me, sir, do you mind like scooting over?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm fine here. This is my spot." And I kind of, for a second, I got, my face was flushed, the blood rushed to my head, like I wanted to, but I took a second. I was like, you know what? This isn't worth it. So I just went to another section, and then I left shortly after.
Yeah, there's just too many other places to scavenge to have to worry about. I'll let them have their place.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, where is your favorite place to source now? I mean, is there any specific you like yard sales more than anything else, or?
I've really gotten into government surplus because, just where we live, there's like a lot of agencies and stuff and townships, and it's just like they throw good stuff away or they put good stuff up for auction, like take for example, they had these really like specific phones that are kind of like two-way radios, which is weird, but it was some little township out in the sticks. I picked them up, I think, for $50, and then I shipped them to myself for I think $40, and I sold immediately within the month. I sold 3 of them for $100 a piece.
Wow.
So, yeah.
No, I mean those. We've kind of delved into that some, especially with like its military, its surplus. But you buy a big pallet of like old boots or any of that kind of its military stuff, and I mean it can be a thing. So, but obviously, if you're not buying the huge bins of stuff, you're going after smaller lots of stuff.
Yeah. I tried to. So the bigger, I mean, obviously the item itself, I tried to get a smaller quantity. So those phones, I could only pick up like, I think it was like 10 of them. Mm-hmm. So, but for small stuff, I just picked up some little gadgets for vehicles that track like mileage and different stuff. And there was a lot of like 30, and I picked those up for like $30. And I think they sell, the most expensive one I've seen sell on eBay was like $200. And then, but I think that was a really inflated price point. So I'm going to aim for probably lower, probably around $50 a piece. So,
yep. So everyone now is probably asking, where do you store this stuff? Because if you're just in like a little studio apartment, like where does all this stuff go?
Yeah, so the same principle applies, and this will apply to anybody with an apartment, studio, anybody who's living in a small house. Because your space is so limited, you really want to maximize and optimize your space. So for myself, I used to stuff everything in this closet. I had about half the stuff of what I have right now. I'm looking at the pile, and it took up the entire closet, and I was like, whoa, I must have a lot of stuff. Really, I didn't have a lot of stuff. I was just disorganized, and everything was stuffed in there haphazardly. So I bought myself a good little, shelving unit from Walmart, the kind of like the wire chrome ones, and I built it up, placed it against the wall in the little corner of my room, and then I organized everything by size. Okay, this thing's small, this thing's heavy, this thing's a box, and then I just kind of played Tetris with it and put everything where I thought it was best suited.
And how many items are up right now?
I have 239 items.
And how many items do you think that you could store in that place?
That's a really tricky question, simply because it really depends on the items you have, and it's like, it depends on the niche too. Like if, someone's into game or cards, trading cards, Pokemon cards, whatever the case may be, they can have thousands of items in a shoebox, and I actually have a lot of cards up right now, and it's not really my speed. I don't know if I'll do it again, but that makes a good portion of my listings right now. So, but I think with the stuff, I have a good mixture of small stuff and large stuff. I think I want to do at least 500. If I can do 1,000, I'll do it. I don't care. Yeah.
Now, I've been on that flipping board on at Reddit, and I've enjoyed it too. Although I do find like it does skew a little younger and a male. So a lot of the interest seems to be in like video games, like retro games, kind of stuff that like younger men would be interested in. So it's interesting. Have you, I guess, hearing from us, you kind of get a different point of view too, where you can not only focus on those things, but you can focus on just anything, things like a grandma might like, and that stuff is valuable too. Have you been expanding that range of items?
I think with regards to the board, it's kind of like they pay attention to the fads more, if that makes sense. Like, for a while, those little dolls were really popular. I forgot what they're called. From like Star Wars, they're kind of like caricatures of the actual characters, and like that was all over the board, and I was kind of like, oh, that's kind of fatty. What are they gonna do when they run out of those, like when that passes, So those, like the items that you like the staple items, the well-made, cool, artsy, vintage items that really look cool and are timeless. I really like those because it's just a cool style. It's a simpler time. It reminds me of, I don't know, better America, I guess.
Well, anytime something is well made, I think there will always be a value to it. So
absolutely.
And so and plus, it's, I guess it's kind of sad because so few things are well made these days. You can always tell if you pick it up. Even if I don't know what something is, I can just tell if it's made out of something nice.
Yeah. Like, planned obsolescence. Like that is so prevalent. Like, you pick up something that was made a couple years ago and within the month it's breaking and you're like, how is this possible when I have this one from my childhood that's still good? Like, how is it possible that one is somehow better made even though regulations and everything are better now? It's
like, the whole point is a lot of this stuff is meant to break, so you have to buy it again.
Yeah.
Now, and on those boards too, I don't know if this trend is still going. For about a year ago, is really big into buying phones on Craigslist, like, buying people's old phones and then flipping them on Craigslist. But then it seemed like that kind of got overdone or saturated.
Yeah, definitely. I was, that struck me as a fad. But obviously it passed, so now you'll be hard pressed to find someone who flips phones exclusively, Yeah.
Okay, so going back to storing. Now, it's one thing having like a little studio. I know a lot of people hearing this are dealing with, they don't have a lot of space, so they're trying to figure out how to store their stuff. But the one thing they have is it's no one's coming into their rooms and inspecting. And I'm having this imagination of like you have a guy with like one of those Smokey the Bear hats who like barges into your room and he's like putting a quarter on your bed so it bounces. Does that happen? And what do they say when you have all this stuff?
Well, anything like when you're first new at it, a job, college or whatever, you probably shouldn't assume that you're allowed to do whatever you want, if that makes sense. So sure. I would not have done this when I first got here. Like this would never have been in my plan because I don't have a rapport. Like they don't know me. My priority should be learning my actual day job first, and then whatever comes after that. So right now I'm in a position where I've got some seniority and I got a good rapport with all of my peers and my superiors, and they know what kind of individual I am. So when they come in, and they see a pile of junk in my corner, they know it's not junk. They know that I have a plan for it. They, and often they'll ask me like, oh, hey, what's all that stuff? And I'll tell them, oh yeah, I just casually sell on eBay, and the big thing is I don't let it affect my work. Like I'm not, if I know I have to work that day or whatever, I don't stay up all night packing and listing. I still have a full-time job. I still have a commitment. I still get paid by the government. So I still have to fulfill that role before I do anything else.
Right, yeah, because you're telling me that the military comes first. It's your first core, it's mission, and then the eBay is a secondary.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have much choice, If you got a good rapport with your superiors, then you should be good. If they come into your room and they see a pile of junk, you just tell them, oh, hey, sir, this is something that I'm doing on the side to just keep me entertained. It's kind of like a hobby. I like to find cool, neat stuff, and I like to sell it online. And they'll probably ask you some more questions, and you just say like, yeah, I try not to let it affect my work. My day job's first, obviously. So the military doesn't change you. It just brings forward what you really are. If you suck at life, you're gonna suck at life in the military, and you're gonna hate every day of your job or every day of your life. If you're motivated, but maybe you need a little push. Maybe you don't have the discipline. Then they'll give you the discipline. They will motivate you, so.
Yeah, it seems like it's more about a situation where they are setting expectations is for you, and then it's up to you to rise to the occasion. Unlike in most of life, most people aren't getting a lot of expectations being asked of them, so they just kind of fall back into just being lazy or whatever.
Absolutely, absolutely. I don't know. How did you feel in the, I guess, corporate world when you worked? Were you, were you challenged? Were you,
Oh my God. So I just laugh. I mean, this could be a whole different podcast. I mean, before I was 30, I was kind of, I kind of stumbled in and out of being on top of things and not being on top of things.
Oh, come on, Jay.
So
you're supposed to be my mentor.
Yeah, no, well, I guess, I'll be the mentor as far as I found my way. So
absolutely.
It just took me a while, I think, to kind of get stuff out of my system. And my 20s were definitely kind of a wacky time.
And obviously, I think I should probably mention right now, we appreciate everything you do, you and Ryan, and Mikey and Wendy as well.
They've kind of moved on to other projects.
Yeah, exactly. So, and like I mentioned earlier when we were talking before the podcast, you guys have kind of been my mentors, and I know a lot of people probably identify with that as well. So, just thanks a lot. I know a lot of people want to say thanks, and we appreciate everything you do.
Wow. Well, thanks. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of it's kind of funny to think that we don't really that's why I like doing these kind of interviews or these conversations, because we oftentimes it's just kind of a one-way thing. It's interesting to meet people that actually hear us. I am interested in something like this because, again, I couldn't imagine being so on top of things when I was in my early 20s. So it's amazing to hear that you're kind of aware of where you are, aware of what's possible. You kind of know the pitfalls that can happen to someone at your age, and you're avoiding them. I mean, that's a big deal. And I'm also interested to hear after we post this, I hope you'll come on our its forum and talk to people, because I know there's a lot of people that sell on eBay and they hear us and they post on its forum that were in its military, but they're doing it afterwards. I would love to hear what they think of the fact that you're doing this while you're on base.
The best time to plant the tree is 10 years ago. The second best time is now. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're finding stuff. You're a listing, so I think there's assumption here that you just had list off duty, obviously. And are you doing it on phone or on a computer?
I have a computer. Actually built a computer myself. It's kind of one of those hobbies that I was using to keep me out of trouble. So I just use that, and then I have a pretty good camera it's a Rebel T5 or something that I bought when I was stupid and. But I got a good deal on it, so whatever. And I use that, take pictures, and list.
Here's the thing that I'm interested in is when you ship it. So if something sells, if you wake up, is there a post office on base? How are you packing stuff?
Yeah, the post office is literally right down the road, so it's not a hassle for me at all on my way to work to just drop it off. But I just something sells, I hear the cha-ching, get a little high, and I go on to, there's some tools that I use online. It's Fit Shipper is one, and I just plug in the dimensions, because I'm not experienced enough to, like Ryan, to know just by default all the best options or whatever. So I have to get some help online with that. So
now, do you have a shipping area in your studio?
I try to. But usually it's occupied by something else. Maybe I'll have books there or something going on. So I just kind of pack wherever I can, to be honest.
And I mean, so are you trying to sell stuff that just goes in a poly mailer, or where do you keep its boxes?
Well, right now I actually have them on the bottom shelf of that wire shelving, and they're neat though. I mean, they're stacked neatly and obviously optimized for space and whatnot. So I have priority flat rate boxes, I have the regional boxes, and then I have a couple of my own that I usually use to make what the people on the board called a Franken box,
Yep. Yeah, right. Where you have to, it's
Yeah.
make a box to fit an item. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
when you know that you really stepped into. I'm a serious person online now. I'm a serious scavenger.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, and then after you pack them, did you just print a label in the studio and then just walk it down to the post office?
Yeah, I bought a Dymo early on. I always think, hey, if I can reinvest into this business and, kind of lower my tax burden, why not? So, some people were saying, hey, you should probably wait to get a thermal printer, until later on, so you know for sure eBay's something you want to do. And this thermal printer, excuse me, has already paid for itself like tenfold, in savings. So, and then recently I just picked up a brother printer so I can print off FedEx shipping labels, and yeah.
Okay, so you've packed, you've mailed stuff, and then how are you dealing with customers? I'm assuming just on it's your phone. So are people messaging you offers, that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. For offers, I try to respond really quick. I mean, my margins are so great that usually I can take a pretty hefty discount on the listing price and I still make a good amount of money. But obviously, I found it to be true what you said early on, that people were selling their stuff for a lot less. And I was looking at, some of the stuff I first sold, and I was like, wow, I sold that for a pittance. I could have made so much more. Like, I actually lost money on a couple of my early transactions. So.
Okay, and we don't have to get real specific here, but I think people hearing this will probably be in your same position where I think you've started what in February, is that
Yes.
right? So you're like getting into 6 months in, so you're still relatively. It's new, but it sounds like you've actually made a system and you're doing it. Can you share like how much you sell? Like what kind of profits are you bringing in?
Yeah, of course. I actually have a spreadsheet here. Let me just pull that up. Yeah, actually, you kind of forced me to improve my bookkeeping, I guess, or whatever.
Good.
Because yeah, I was like, oh, I have to prove to Jay that I'm a success. I can't let him down. So,
Well, a
so
lot of real quick, a lot of new people that sell on eBay, and we were one of those people too. You kind of just start to sell. It feels like, oh, I'm just having a yard sale, and then money starts rolling in, and then you realize, like, oh no, this is real income. And if
what
I
have I
don't
gotten
start
myself into?
declaring this, yeah, I'm going to get in trouble. And then, so everyone it seems like a lot of people they end up doing their bookkeeping after the fact, and it's good that you're doing it right now.
If you're trying to avoid your taxes or something, because it's come across a couple times where I've come across a couple times where people say, oh, I'm just not going to do them. I've never gotten in trouble. Like, if you're being shady, that stuff's going to carry over into your business, and then you're just, it's not the right route to take to be shady to, avoid. Hey, you're making this money. Just give the government its share, and let's move on. Let's make more money.
Yeah.
But so let's see. So on inventory, purely for February, I spent $170. I sold them for 614. Of that was pure just the listing price. Listing price plus shipping, I made $721. In eBay fees, I paid $70. PayPal, I paid $24, and shipping cost was $127. So after the fact, everything factored in net was $327.
Okay. And then do you use that money for anything specific? Is it going into savings? Like, is that.
On the budgeting side, I'm pretty solid. I mean, I have no expenses as it is. I mean, I pay for my mom's phone just as a courtesy to her, and then I pay for my phone, and internet, it's nothing, and then my vehicle is nothing as well. Pretty much I try to dedicate at least $100 to $200 of it to purchasing new inventory.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like snowballing my inventory into more money. So, and then the rest I just kind of hang on to or use it to buy equipment or whatever, or fuel, whatever I need to.
Yeah, and then the hope is very soon you'll be making more, and then it's just going to be pure cash that you can either save or do something else with.
Yeah. Actually, my goal is I'm kind of jumping ahead of the list here, but my goal is to save 10,000 for not really a down payment, but just to have in reserves for when I get out and I want to buy a home and house hack.
I think that's a great goal. And yeah, I think, and if you think about $20,000, isn't that crazy? I mean, if you're putting away $300, $500, $800 a month, I mean, it comes pretty quick.
Yeah. And I'm fortunate enough to where I have a bunch of resources, like the VA loan. Like I don't have to put anything down. Like there's a lot of houses that qualify for a VA loan that they don't qualify for an FHA loan. So there's a lot of resources and factors working in my favor in that respect.
Now, I mean, I know goals can change, but is your goal to be in its military for 20 years? I think that's the stated time, right, to get full retirement.
I used to say that, but it's kind of unfortunate. It's a different beast than I thought it was going to be.
Yep.
It's not exactly how I imagined it. I'm not exactly running to the sound of chaos.
Right.
So, if something happens or if, there's an opportunity that opens up and it looks good, I might stay in. But as I see it right now, there's a lot more opportunity and stuff that I can do outside of the military. So I'm going to get out as far as I can tell for now.
Got it. So is that after 6 years or?
I have about another year left. So
yeah, I mean, I'm going to be interested to hear the older people on the forums who have been in its military. They may be screaming at you. Like, it may not sound fun, but really it's not that long. And, if you got in at 18, I mean,
yeah.
you'll only be 40 and you'll like have a whole second way to make a living. But at the same time, you'll have all that money from the military.
Yeah, like I said, the military is a great stepping stone. It's a great, fiscal decision just because you'll have health insurance, you'll have, your place paid for by the government, you'll have a steady paycheck, job security. And not to mention, like, there's a bunch of ways to earn extra money, like allowances and specialty pays and whatnot. So it's a great fiscal decision if you can put up with the other stuff that comes with it.
I think that's the thing, though. 20 years is a long time, especially at the beginning of life. It's a long slog.
You don't have to do 20 years just in the military. I mean, you're part of what's called the FERS, which is like the Federal Employee Retirement System, I think. Yeah, that sounds about right? The acronyms match up. So you can do more time in another federal service. Like you can, I think, Department of like the Parks or whatever handles the parks is part of it. And like I myself am going to go into I'm hoping to go into another federal agency. So yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to do 20 years with that because your time counts. So my 5 years, I only have to do 15 in the other service to retire.
See, that's interesting. I didn't know that it all transferred over. Well, that's good. So then you could pick a service that's interesting to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, real quick, being in its military, do you have the choice to always staying in, or after the first 5-year contract, can they say we don't want you anymore?
So back in the day, they absolutely just took anybody and everybody to stay in because they needed the numbers. But now they're kind of tightening up and drawing down. They're really selective on who they want to stay in. So they have different little wickets that you need to hit to be considered. You'll say I'm a really fast runner, and there's actual metrics to measure it and to quantify it. But say I'm a really fast runner. Oh, cool. You get like your score is like a B plus. Oh, but we're only accepting A minus Marines. So sorry, you didn't make the cut. So that's the kind of system that they use.
Wow. So it's not even a guarantee when your time comes up that they'll keep you.
Yeah. For the most part, they do keep them because it takes a lot to just, be a really bad military member. But
and then the other thing, I have this stereotype in my head that if you're in its military and if you choose to stay in, that you go from job to job to job. So I guess you're not going to stay in, but how would that have worked? I mean,
it kind of depends on your needs. They kind of try to tailor it to whatever you need. So most of the time it doesn't happen, but when they can, they do. So like, for example, if you just got married, hey, I just got married. I have a newborn baby. I was wondering if I could stay in the States at least a little bit, like the next couple years to help out my wife, and build a family. They'll probably take that into consideration over the single guy who doesn't really have anything holding him down. So, but it just depends kind of what you want to do and where you want to go. So there's so many options, and you can do literally anything in the military you want.
Right, but specifically to eBay, if you were to have to move or if you leave the military, I mean, I guess, are you already thinking about like where all your inventory is going to go and how you're going to transfer your store? Or
are you asking like if I were to stay in, how would I handle that? Or
well, I mean, I guess, I mean, if you don't stay, how are you going to move all of it your stuff? Are you thinking about that already?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm actually in the process of trying to buy a little trailer, like maybe like a 5x8 or 6x10, something like that, small, that I want to convert it into like a little flipping workstation. I want to,
Oh,
yeah, put like shelving on the side and like a rail system so I can just tow my stuff around, and then that'll also help me move my stuff after I'm done. And the main reason I want to do the trailer is so I can get all my stuff out of my room. I don't like the clutter.
and then I guess my last kind of topic I wanted to talk about again is because specifically about the it's military, is that I mean we've kind of talked about it, but if they care about you, it's selling online. I don't know. Could you talk about why if you had a Shopify store, but they didn't like that, but they don't mind eBay?
So basically, what I was doing, and a lot of the military members out there will probably understand it, and for you that don't, I apologize. But so I set up a store. I'd done all this research about how to do Shopify, how to market, Google Ads, everything like that. So I was selling stuff that my unit was making online, and they did not like that at all. And I will never ever mix business and or my side business and my main job ever again, because that was not a pleasant conversation that I had to have with everyone in my chain of command. Yeah, I guess the main issue that they had was I was misrepresenting myself as a representative of the unit.
Okay.
And they did not like that at all. But I mean, they didn't like it, and that's all that matters. I talked to base legal and everything, and base legal kind of was like, what? They kind of had my back, but it's whatever. It's just a lesson learned not to mix, your main business with your side business in this case. So.
Now, I will say though, I see a lot of those sites where people are selling military stuff and they have names of platoons or is whatever, but those people are out of it's military. So I guess it's okay if you're out of it. You just can't be in it.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
There's not really any repercussions for them, to be honest. What are they going to do? They're going to, find their old leaders and make their old leaders yell at them. So.
Yeah. I mean, but that's an interesting thing, and I'm sure that's true for anyone that has any kind of job, having to negotiate is with your employer that you're doing other kinds of work and just finding the right kind of thing that they're okay with. So I'm glad that they're okay with eBay.
Yeah, I find that it's best to kind of compartmentalize your life, whatever. But yeah, just keep your things that belong separate, or that you think should be separate. I mean, that's just me. Like, hey, for example, you guys, I know you guys don't like to have all the clutter in your house. You guys try to confine it to 1 or 2 rooms. Like, hey, that's perfect if that's what you like to do, have a clean house.
Yep.
And for me, obviously, I'm never gonna mix selling stuff that I guess misrepresents me as a representative of some government entity.
Yep.
I guess. Yeah.
And so the guys who you work with, I mean, do they all know like he's the guy that sells on eBay, or is it just kind of a quiet thing?
I'm pretty open about it. If they ask me, they'll say, "Oh, how much did you make there today, or did you sell anything today, or what was the most recent thing that you sold?" I was actually trying to bring in a buddy to help me because I travel a lot around the country and stuff, and I was gonna have him help me like list and ship, but he got a girlfriend, so he's in love or whatever.
Priorities, right?
Yeah, it's fine. So I was trying to bring him in to make some money with me, but next time.
Well, it sounds just like any of us. I mean, just no one who we know seems to care. Like we may mention it, we soon see their eyes glaze over if we talk about it, and then and that's why we all do this. We find each other online.
Yeah, what's actually funny is I actually picked this up from my mom. My mom used to do this way back when. I was typing out like the little, stuff that I was going to answer with weeks ago, and it hit me. My mom did this exact same thing with me. She used to go to Goodwill and Savers, and then she'd go to the swap meet and sell stuff. And I called her, and I immediately called her. I was like, Mom, guess what? She's like, what? She's a nice old Mexican lady, She's like, what's up, son? I was like, Mom, I do the exact thing you do. And she's like, what do you mean? You go to church, you freaking make food? I'm like, no, Mom. Like, I go to thrift stores and I buy stuff and I sell it. And she's like, they have a swap meet over there? I'm like, Mom, no, I sell it on the internet to other people. And she's like, the internet? I was like, yeah. she was so confused because she doesn't know anything. She was born in the
Yeah.
50s, so she doesn't know about the internet. But she was like, "Oh, that's cool." I was like, "Yeah, mom. I just wanted to say, like, you taught me how to do this early on. I didn't even realize it, you know." And yeah,
I'm telling you, what we all do is the same as what those people do at the swap meets, and they sell out of the back of their car, or they do it in such a small way.
yeah.
And all we have done is just kind of put a rocket under it and just sell online, so we have the whole a world as our customers.
Yeah, how amazing is that? That with a
Really.
click of a button, you can market your product to the entire world for cents.
It is silly. I mean, we always laugh about it, me and Edge Ryan, when we're driving around, and she's doing business on her phone while we're driving across town, answering questions, taking offers. It's ridiculous.
What a time to be alive.
And we're just selling stuff that people are throwing away. That's
Yeah.
what's amazing to me.
The things people throw away, man. Brand new working, things.
Yeah.
I found a brand new router the other day just sitting there on the road. And I was like, did someone drop this on their way into the house, or like what's going on? Like, why is there a random router in the middle of in the road? So I just picked it up and now it's on eBay. So, yeah.
It's crazy. What a country.
Yeah.
I do wonder, when the two of us are older, we're in our 60s, we're like, it's your mom's age. I don't know how old she is, but yeah, like older. I just wonder if the same opportunities are going to be there, or if this country will learn not to be so wasteful. I don't know.
I think things tend to sneak up on the American populace. I mean, if you think about, automation, no one is seeing that coming. That's going to steal
Yeah.
everybody's jobs, and no one is saying anything about it. Like, where is the news articles about robots taking all the blue collar jobs?
Yeah.
Where is it's not there. So I think it's going to be the same thing when, we're all older. There'll be some new thing, and it's going to sneak up on everybody, and it's going to take it by storm,
Yeah. Self-driving cars, robots, AI, all that kind
Yep,
of stuff.
all that. Yeah.
Artificial intelligence, yeah. So that's why it's smart for all of us. Save it your cash, pay off any debt, and get ready.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't be scared to take risks, to set yourself up for a better life. It's
Seriously.
yeah,
Yeah, and don't depend on somebody else for that income if you can.
absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Well, Flavio, thanks so much I'm glad you reached out. This was a joy. It was great.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again for everything you guys do. Make sure to say, I said hello to Ryan and everything. And thanks a lot for everything you guys do. I mean, the forum's great. I was on it last night, and your podcasts are great. And I've learned a lot. And like I said before, I consider you guys to be my mentors. So this was a really cool experience to meet my mentors.
Cool. All right. I'll see you.
Alrighty. Bye.